I used to measure my progress based on my output, meaning like more shoots, more momentum, and even more like validation. And I lost my car 8 months ago, and losing my car exposed this new truth within myself, which was without motion, I felt almost invisible. But over time, I realized stillness became sacred. It became like a mirror of who I am without the accomplishments. And it developed a list of pros and cons, as everything does. Like, for one, I developed self-awareness, patience, humility, but I also wrestled with self-doubt and feeling like life was just passing me by. When the world stopped moving for me, I learned that peace doesn't arrive in motion, but it actually begins in silence. I hit the phase where pride met paralysis, and my ego wanted to fix the stillness instead of feel it. Every time I missed a shoot, every ride request felt like regression, but really it was pruning. And this is where I started to detach the illusion of that my value equals my productivity. I learned endurance. I learned empathy, surrender, and I was battling with this internal chaos and resentment and even comparison. I realized that ego hates patience because it can't control its timing. And in that realization, I learned how to surrender. I began to journal more. I was walking more. I was praying more. I was trading movement for meaning. And that in and of itself is what gave me this sense of calm in this unknown period of my life that I was trying to navigate, because it was much bigger than just losing my car. It was everything that I was working on had to now be slightly redirected, but it was actually the catalyst for a complete curveball that was gonna get thrown in my life later down the road. And it became almost trivial to like keep going through these lessons that it just felt like I was just like, there's no way. But also it helped me develop this mindset that made me pursue peace instead of happiness. And it made me find meaning in what I was creating beyond aesthetics, beyond everything that I thought what other people wanted from me. And it made me actually take a moment to just think about what I actually want from myself. And it gave me this sense of wholeness within myself. And I realized that growth isn't always visible. And sometimes the internal construction, the discipline that you thought was lost is really just transforming into awareness and emotional maturity. I found rhythm in my reflection and emotional regulation, and even completely detaching myself from the noise. But I was still in this isolation, and the stillness also forced me to face loneliness and uncertainty. And stillness doesn't pause your story. That's what I've realized, that stillness does not pause my story. It actually just edits my perspective. So in that, I realized that stillness doesn't pause your story, it just edits your perspective on how you're navigating through life's challenges, life's motives, life's narrative. What story you're writing is all solely based on how you're perceiving the world around you. And stillness is those moments where you're able to edit those perspectives into something progressional, into something beautiful, and into something creative, expansive, and it leads you down a direction that will only benefit for you and never deter you from what it is that actually resonates with your soul. And it'll never feel like anything is happening to you, but in turn is actually happening for your greatest benefit. The car basically had became a metaphor for everything that I can lose, like stability, validation, relationships, even opportunities. And my realization was nothing external can define your momentum, and your purpose, your energy, and the faith is what actually drives you. And I began to basically treat life less like a race and more like a pilgrimage. I received so much more clarity and gratitude and spiritual depth and occasional nostalgia. Yes, sure. And of course I was yearning for that past rhythm. I realized that if I could stay grounded without the engine, then I can move through any season. And so like the shift was that discipline became sacred and not forced. And I began to basically create from truth, not pressure. And my focus shifted from chasing validation to refining value. And I no longer needed to be seen. Instead, I am learning to see myself. And I discovered alignment and inner peace and mature purpose. But I also was, tempted to relapse into overthinking and perfectionism. And through both of those realizations and through those clarity moments, those moments of clarity, I realized that when you slow down enough to meet yourself, you stop running from your purpose. I realized that motion means nothing without meaning. I realized that when I get my next car, it won't symbolize arrival, but it'll symbolize continuity. And the same patience that hurt now humbled me, but it's proof that I grew in that silence. And through that, I gained emotional mastery and divine timing awareness and gratitude for the mundane. And of course, it's an ongoing test of consistency and keeping peace in future chaos, but God didn't take my car away. He gave me a better direction. What I've learned through all of this, these 8 months, is that I learned that losing something doesn't mean losing momentum. It just means realigning with meaning. I learned that losing something doesn't mean losing momentum. It only means realigning with meaning. And being careless wasn't about immobility, it was about internal calibration and becoming still enough to rebuild identity from the presence and not necessarily productivity. So in these 8 months, without having a car, it showed me how to finally drive without a destination, because I'm already on the road to who I am becoming. Hope that made sense. Guess I'll see you guys later. Whoa, let's focus up now.